I'd like to call the Tuesday, October 14, 2014 Community Redevelopment Agency Board to order. It's approximately 5:06 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Williams.
Here.
Board Member Fairclough.
Here.
Vice Chairman Shelley. Chairman Porter.
Here. Item 2, additions, deletions, deferrals, anything? Tab 1 is the board minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Tab 2. Rick?
Yeah, just the title.
Just the title. Tab 2 is a resolution for CRA not-for-profit grant disbursements fiscal year 2013-2014. CRA staff recommends that the CRA board approve the resolution authorizing the disbursement of funds based on the recommendations made by the non-for-profit grant committee. The recommendations are as follows: Homestead Main Street, $35,000; Greater Miami Youth for Christ, KICS, $30,000; Miami Bridge Youth and Family Services, $20,000; and Community Coalition of South Dade, $15,000.
No, I'm getting ready to speak now.
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Now, Rick, I've asked you to send me the reports on these non-for-profits that have already gotten money. I received the last one today from Main Street. The question is, what is the percentage that we give for administrative salary costs?
35%.
So 35% of what we give out, 35% they can use for salary.
Mm-hmm.
So what's 35% of 35,000?
I believe it's 12,005.
So
But let me check. So about $12,250.
So the report you sent me today, what was the total that they used for that?
They had used much less of that. They'd gotten their funding in June, and the report goes to the end of the fiscal year. So we've asked them to update that report because they had gotten the money so late in the fiscal year. A lot of them weren't unable to expend them all. So, but they are aware that it's in that report currently under the 12.5. Now, they may have more money in salary, but they can use other funds that they have for that.
And then the additions, other than the 35, like special events and different things like that, that comes out of the CRA as well, right?
Yes.
That's not included into Main Street, correct? That's for Main Street.
It's, yes, they get $15,000 a,
So why don't we just why do you divide it up like that? What's the rationale behind that?
I think because it kind of happened in an organic way. Originally, we had the non-for-profit committee. Actually, let me go back a little bit farther. Prior to the committee format, Main Street was a line item in the CRA budget, and it was before my time, but I believe they got about $65,000, along with Art South and the museum, I believe. And then we implemented the non-for-profit grant committee program. We made that competitive, and they still were getting funded that way. But that, at the time, there was no limit on the amount of administration that you could put in. So they could, whatever grant they got, they could use it to pay salaries however they wanted. And so their nonprofit support was going basically for their administrative. And then they came back, and since all of the events were held in the downtown, and they were kind of really in line with getting people into Losner Park in the downtown, they came and asked for help with their events. So they're currently getting funded at $50,000, which is less than their original line item budget, but That's why I believe it was broken up.
Okay, but it's going to the same
Same organization.
organization?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Rick, a question on the Miami Bridge. Reading through the minutes, I guess some clarity on the building belongs to the county? Was this the one where the building belongs to the county?
There was, a while ago, a swap, I believe, and this was the old Girl Scouts
Right.
campus. And, you know, they've been trying to do some capital upgrades there for a while, and I know they've done the outside, and they've done some security and fencing. But I'd have to double check. I'm not, off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly.
So the final recommendation was $20,000 to Miami Bridge. That's what I read?
Yes. Yes.
And they asked for 35?
Mm-hmm.
And, but, you know, when you start talking about renovating or improving buildings that are in a non-taxable status, it doesn't do anything to grow the CRA. It doesn't improve the value of the CRA because it's in a non-taxable status. So just a little bit of a concern there from that respect. You know, as trying to continue to replenish the values, replenish the CRA dollars. That's just a aside to the question. But anyway, I wasn't sure if it was the county or not. I couldn't really make that out. Any final questions? Mr. Williams?
Yes, thank you. If that is the case, then then how do we factor Main Street in that? How does it improve taxable values?
Well,
According to the mayor's question, how does that particular organization, that non-profit, how do these are non-profit dollars and grants?
The criteria for this grant program are based on the different spheres in the CRA plan that the CRA is supposed to look at. So when the committee is evaluating, it has to be utilized for either affordable housing, job creation, retention, historic preservation, commercial improvements, infrastructure, growth and economic development, arts and culture, parks and open space. So, you know, the Main Street and their goal of getting people into the downtown, getting people to find out everything that we have to offer, is one, marketing for the downtown. Two, it's hopefully going to improve the businesses for the businesses in the downtown. And that's always, I think, been consistent with the CRA board's approval through the years for Main Street. So that's always been my understanding of the justification.
I don't know. I guess I just wrestled with. They requested They requested 35,000. I guess what did they request last year?
I believe it was the same amount. Sir.
Right, 35. We gave them 35, and then they requested again. What makes them stand out to be number one every year? I just don't. If you have if that is the case, then on your committee, what is the scale by which a formula that you're using to score?
There is a quantitative score based on, let me... There are 4 categories. I'm struggling to remember exactly what they are off the top of my head. The capacity for the organization to fulfill what it's requesting. Does it meet the goals of the CRA? Is there a need for it in the city? I think there's one more, and then they give a presentation and they get scored on their presentation. And then we calculate those scores. This year we had enough funding for 5 grants. We had 4 applicants. And we went down in descending order of how they were scored. So Main Street came first.
And then we talk about one time, if I can remember correctly, that at some point in time, how do they, at some point in time, what other funding mechanisms do they have besides the city?
They have membership fees, they have sponsors, and I believe those are the two other sources of income that they get.
And I'm trying to, I was looking, maybe I thought it was in the hard copy, I could not find a real financial report for them. Is there a reason, any reason why? Or like a profit and loss statement or anything like that nature? I was looking. It,
They have something from the Silver Palm Tax and Accounting Services, their statement of financial position.
yeah, where is that? What page is that?
It is in Exhibit 3. There's no page number, so it's after the KICS application.
Jesus. Oh. All right, thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Waldman?
Thank you, Mayor. I had a conversation with Rick earlier, but there were some questions that I still had on some other things, and one of them is this Greater Miami Youth for Christ kick, and then you have them mentioned again in tab 3.
Yes.
This one is for 30,000, and then you have them again mentioned for 25,000. Now, I had a problem. I just had a problem with what I had in my book to read from. It said that Mr. Sharfman said the majority of the residents were the necessity. Well, this is how the minutes read. Majority of the residents were the necessity of a new bathroom without having to wear bathroom slippers.
That's the Miami Bridge, not KICS. That's the Miami Bridge
Okay,
application.
that's the Miami Bridge. Okay,
Right.
that's the 20,000. Well, let's talk about that while we're at it.
Sure.
I mean, that just, I have to wear bedroom slippers, I don't
There was a
understand.
long conversation at the
And maybe
committee,
it
at the
shouldn't have been in
committee
the
meeting,
minutes, but,
where they discussed, that they have boys and girls bathrooms, separate dormitories for based on gender, and that the tile in the floor is very old, and there's some issues with mold, and they just wanted to make sure that it was a clean and safe environment. And he used the idea of slippers, I guess, as an allegory to say that they wanted to upgrade the facilities for the bathrooms.
And then, he also confirms that the majority of the people who are at that place are from Miami, not from Homestead.
Oh, they are basically a drop-off center for kids whose families have just kind of given up and they have no place to go. And they'll take kids from all over the county. And they do have children from Homestead. I do believe some of the board members have visited the site to take a look at it in the past. But they don't deny somebody because they're not in the city of Homestead. So.
And then getting over to this KIC program, do they own the property that they're in?
Yes, they just bought a property. They're up on the other car agenda is for the commercial enhancement grant.
Right.
That's for landscaping improvements outside of the building where the kids are going to be and that sort of thing. And the not-for-profit grant is for programming.
And where do these children come from?
The majority of their kids come from the Southwest. I mean, from what I understand, a significant, almost all of them.
And I really respect that the board members took time to go and visit and you know, actually see the facilities and know and can report back. I don't know, there was something about that statement about the bathroom. And if they have mold in that building, they shouldn't be in there in the first place, so.
And you know, that conversation came up.
Did it?
Yes, it did now.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments before I open up the public hearing?
Yes, to the mayor.
Ms. Fairclough?
I'd just like to thank the CRA and the committee for investing in the time to sift throughout these applications and this process. If I should say so myself, having sat on this board for multiple years, I think this cycle here was the most seamless. Prior to this, we had some bumps along the road, but I think that you all have perfected this process. And given the information that the board had to read in the presentations that they sat through, I think they came up with a commendable decision. If I can just recommend that we kind of ramp it up so that we can get more applicants, because we only have 4 this year. I think this is the least amount that we've had. Am I correct, Rick?
Yes.
Right. So we can just ramp it up so that we can provide more funding to these very worthy nonprofits that we have in the community. So that would be my only recommendation moving forward, that we attempt to increase the amount of applicants.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing. If there's anyone who'd like to speak for or against this grant distribution for the not-for-profits, you're welcome to come to the podium. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments? Is there a motion? Mr. Williams?
I guess what I'd like to see, Rick, also hopefully for more of these funds going into programmatic than administration and salaries. I think that programs like KICS and Line Bridge, though I see it in some of these other applications, I see it more of aesthetics to, you know, rehab buildings, and then also conflicted because we provide another grant opportunity to help within that area, and it's coming off on the same dollars. Does that make sense? And so on one hand, they're applying for under another title to fix up their building, and then on the other side, where they're for nonprofits, and it's going all for buildings, and I don't see a lot of programmatic or salaries. I don't see a lot of programmatic implementations in place to where the dollars are actually getting to. And I know the CRA is to help, you know, kind of curtail blight, but I look at these this sector of grant giving for programmatic expenditures, creating new programs for the community in which they can be utilized, not so much of salaries and buildings being fixed up, I guess is what my issue is with this, because they're applying on the other end. They applied for some monies to fix up the same buildings. I just, if you can just help me with that. And the objective in which the you know, the course was laid out, because I'm bothered a little bit by that in approving some of these applications.
The best thing that I can say is that this is the community's funds, TIF dollars. How it gets expended for the grant programs is strictly, I think, a policy decision for the board. And I think there are a lot of questions on, with these grants, for example, right now there's no restriction on people coming back year after year for commercial enhancement grants. I mean, there's how, if you want to just focus on one type of area that the CRA is supposed to focus on, say it's economic development, or let's say it's arts and cultures. I think trying to find a balance with all the different needs in the communities and all the different desires of the board members, that's really something that we will take that direction, and we will implement a program that really meets that consensus need. That's what we will do. I think that if you want to have that conversation, I think it needs to be a conversation about the grant programs in their entirety, especially when you look at our TIF revenues over the past couple of years and where we're struggling with the budget overall. So because I think it was a couple years ago, we were giving monies to a lot of programs, and then we came up with this. Some people were upset about how much was going to salaries. We put in the salary restriction for administrative. But then we also wanted to find a way, because we thought, well, let's get some of these capital improvements into the commercial enhancement grant, and we have been funneling. But there's no restriction saying that, well, if you apply for the commercial enhancement grant, you can't apply for a different capital improvement through NFP. So there are some details that I think need to kind of be worked out.
But these are not NSP dollars.
I'm sorry, not-for-profit. I meant the not-for-profit monies.
So, you didn't answer my question, but okay. How can they apply, same organization, for a commercial improvement grant to fix up the same bathrooms, and then apply to the same organization, CRA, on another side for the not-for-profits for the same thing?
Well, I don't think we've had that happen yet. I think what we've had is had somebody come in, like Kicks, for example, which is a non-for-profit programmatic request, but at the same time they applied for a commercial enhancement infrastructure improvement on the outside of the building. Those are two different things, same organization, applied within the same month or so. And there's no restriction in the application that says you can't do that. So we've never told them that they can't do that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Fairclough?
Yes, I just have one more recommendation or opportunity for improvement. I believe I mentioned it at the meeting. When they present their financial statements, if they can present their financial statements for the building or property where they're currently located in the city of Homestead.
Right.
Because we saw that we weren't really looking at real numbers, because like Miami Bridge has 2 locations. So we had a hard time determining, okay, where are the financial statements for this location? And everything was just jumbled together. So I think that would make it easier for the committee and the council to determine their financials if it was carved out for the location within the city of Homestead.
And I do encourage, we have a follow-up meeting with the committee. We're going to be scheduling that for the end of October, where they can discuss the process, and I'll make sure that it's on everybody's calendar, so you can come and sit in and really see what that debate is about, because your committee members, they take this extremely seriously, and they are passionate about what they do, and they really want to do the right thing. So we can I'll make sure that happens.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move
it.
Moved and
Second.
seconded. Any final comments? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Woolman,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes?
Board Member Fairclough,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Shelley,
Yes.
Chairman Porter.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 3.
Tab 3 is a resolution of the Board of the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the allocation of commercial improvement grant funds as recommended by the Southwest Advisory Committee, approving grant agreement, approving it for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Questions from board members? Ms. Waldman?
Mayor, I had some long conversations today about what I'm going to bring up, and I just want my fellow colleagues to understand that, again, I respect, and Ms. Fairclough, thank you so much for all the time that you've put into this. I can't even imagine how much you put into it. But I really have a problem with one of the grant, one of the glasses on, the commercial enhancement grants, and that is to an organization, and I just hate to bring it up, but I have to, and that's the Homestead Metal Recycling. Homestead Metal Recycling. I'm sorry, can you hear me, Mr. Wood?
A little bit.
I'm sorry. That's our biggest complaint, by the way. Nobody can hear us
Gotcha.
on the recordings. The reason I have a problem with it is because the applicant, when he stood before us, and what was it, about a year or so, Joe, do you have a microphone? Because you're probably going to be asked some questions. When did he stand, pardon?
Yes, mine's working.
He's trying to get away with saying he doesn't have a microphone. But it was about a year or so ago, and he stood before us, and he promised us that he was going to work inside the property. He was not going to work outside the property. And then lately, he's been meeting with council, and I don't know if he's met with any of you, but he has met with me. And, you know, he wants changes. He wants to work outside. He wants us to forgive an issue with the fence. He wants all these things. And he told me that he was moving forward with the application. I don't know what he told others, but he told me he was moving forward with the application. I find out today he hasn't moved forward with the application. And here he is with the possibility of getting a grant application of $10,000 to do exactly what he said he wasn't going to do, and that is to work outside. And now I'm not saying that's what he's going to do on the slab with this asphalt, but that certainly appears to be what it implies. And I had a long talk with him. I told him that he, needed to abide with what Building and Zoning said, and he was not happy with that. I don't know how you handle something like this. We all agreed that it's never happened before. We don't know what the answer is. It's my opinion. I just don't think that when there's been obvious conversation, and I know what the intentions are, and I don't know if he's met with any of you, but obviously I think he probably has, if he was as tenacious with you as he was with me, then I don't know, I just have a problem granting something. He doesn't own the property. I think he's been very successful in his business. I think he's outgrown the business. If recollection serves me right, he was advised that this property might not be the suitable match for him from the very beginning, but yet he chose to do that. And now we have a $10,000 grant to pour asphalt from the side of the house out and to put hedges around the fence. And was the whole topic of our conversation, was this fence, where zoning says he has to have a wall to do what he's doing, and he doesn't want to have the wall. He doesn't want to pay for the wall. So I'll just throw it out there, Mayor. I've just gone back and forth with this all day today, all day, and it's just troubling to me.
Vice Mayor?
I guess some follow-up questions that were raised by the councilwoman. And have we looked at what he's planning on doing as far as this proposal, not what he may apply for later on, but as far as, does the code allow for what he's trying to do as far as that much concrete, the setbacks met, all those types of things?
We haven't had that discussion, and we don't normally do. We just require that all grant applicants and their contractors are licensed contractors, and that they get permits for the projects, because we wouldn't expend any money without a closed permit. So what the application is for is on one side of the building where there currently is some asphalt. There's significant flooding, and there's significant flooding around that building. And so they're requesting to put additional asphalt to kind of raise the grade a little bit so that they won't have flooding issues, and that they're looking to put landscaping around the outside of their fence, especially since it abuts a residential tower. So when we receive the application, we look at, do they have all the documentation that we need? Do they have, if they don't own the building, do they have the sign off from their landlord, which they do? Does it meet the criteria of what you're allowed to do? And it does. And then it had gone to Southwest Advisory Board for recommendation. That's
And then
how
I
we
guess,
looked at it.
I guess my question would be, let's say if we approve this, and then it's not able to be done, and then he just doesn't get the funding, so the funding is actually conditional on those permits being obtained?
What usually would happen in that case, and sometimes we get grants and they can't afford everything that they want. So we would prioritize, usually it's life safety and infrastructure first, and then we go around and we'll try to get it painted or something like that. If they can't do what they originally just wanted to do, we would bring that back to you and say, they have requested $25,000 to do this, and they can't do it, but they want to do this. We would bring that back to you, if it was a major change, that's something we'd bring back to you. But, once they get the grant, we would help them go out and get estimates. We have, 3 or 4 different people that come. We want to make sure that they're getting a good deal, and we would make sure that they were getting what they were paying for.
Okay. No, that was just my question, just making sure I understood how it would work. If he applies for this money based on one concept, and then he does go through the application process, if he's successful, then some of this may be very applicable to what he's looking to do. On the other hand, if he's not successful, then it may be less applicable, and he may decide he doesn't want to do it or apply it someplace else. So I'm just trying to clarify how these monies would be judged on. If we approve it tonight, do we lose all control, or do you guys then bring it back to us if there was a change?
If there's ever a major change in scope on any of these projects, we would bring it back to you.
Okay. That's all for now. Thanks.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you. This is one of those issues that I, as liaison to the Southwest, that I instill in, I try to make my recommendation that the applicants are always present, especially when we're giving out money. I think they ought to be here. So when we have questions, like this, that raised from the dais, they're able to tell us what the deal is before we decide to dish out, these dollars. And what the Southwest Advisory Board is, they required them to come. They would not even hear their application. Am I right, Rick? Sometimes they've turned them, they've said that we're not going to hear some of their application if the persons are not there. They've done that in some instances, haven't they not?
Yes, they have.
Yeah. And I think it's becoming upon us that sometimes if somebody's, if they're asking for money, they ought to be here to, at least so we can ask questions like Ms. Waldman, you have questions, and none of us, and Rick cannot answer, and I can't answer it, and so, I think, this grant needs to be, this particular one needs to be tabled until the follow-up questions can be had, that you feel comfortable in allocating these dollars. That's what I hear you saying. Yeah. So I think that's my concern about that. We're the applicants that are asking for the dollars. Those are who are here. So we have appropriate questions like Vice Mayor Shelley were able to get some answers before voting on it and giving them the dollars. So as part of, Rick, you bring back, as we try to tighten up these grant proposals, that we ought to mandate that they ought to attend these meetings in case there are questions, so that we can ask them about it. I don't know how we would go by doing that, but I think it needs to be some kind of requirement within the system.
Ms. Waldman?
I thought somebody else was in front of me, I'm sorry. Based on what Vice Mayor said, let me ask you a question. Because he hasn't applied, which he told me he was going to apply, because he hasn't applied, then according to your criteria, please tell me if I'm wrong, he can go ahead and spend this money and do what he wants to do, but he's already been cited by code for working outside. So you see, it's just, I don't know, I wish he were here, because I'd like to say to him, do you have plans to continue to violate the restrictions? And this council was very clear when we granted the zoning for him to open this business that he was not to work outside. He said all the little screws, excuse me, and bolts would fit in a paint, like 5-gallon container, and God bless him if his business has grown and succeeded, but he was warned that that property might not be suitable for growth. And now I see the $10,000 that could be spent, and tell me if I'm wrong, it could be spent. And then we go back and say, no, you have to put the wall up. You have to do what we're telling you to do in order to expand your business. And then that $10,000 is already spent. So, I mean, I have a lot of questions. And I hate to vote no on all of them. You know, I just would like to pull one out, so.
Well, is that
You
all
got to
right now?
cancel first. I'm sorry, Mayor. I was doing the same thing. You got to cancel and then.
No, I can cancel you.
No, I'm talking to him.
The Vice Mayor, and let's get some clarification on the motion that we can make with regards to this issue.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to ask the question on, and that is, my question is, so let's say we decide to table this. This is end-of-year funds. Do those just, is there a time limit that we have to make a decision on this, or can we table this until we get some clarity?
We can hold the funds.
Okay.
And it's last year, these are last year's
Right,
funds.
correct.
It's not impacting next year. So we can hold them while you get some clarity. It's not going to be an issue.
Okay. Because I agree with what Councilman Waldman raises, and that is, you know, if we approve this as it is today, he goes forward, he does these, and then decides he still wants to expand his business, he has to destroy all the landscaping, pull out the fencing, put up a concrete wall, and you're right, that's monies that have essentially been wasted that could have been maybe applied to other programming or other facades, so I agree.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, let's open up the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak for or against these grant applications, you're welcome to speak now. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Now, Rick, let me just ask, we could send the 3 forward and hold the 1 back, is that what you just said?
I'm going to defer to the city attorney.
Yes, Mayor. The way that the resolution is set up, attached to the resolution, you are approving the allocation of commercial improvement grant funds, and attached to that is Exhibit A, which is the list of the 4 companies with the allocated amounts. So you could remove the Homestead metal recycling, leaving in place as Exhibit A the other 3, and move forward that way.
Okay, we've closed the public hearing. Is there a motion as to this issue?
I'll move that with the exception of removing the 1, what is the name?
Homestead metal recycling.
But moving forward on the other 3.
Properly moved. Is there a second?
Through the mayor, I just had a question before.
Ms. Fairclough, I'm sorry. Go right
Just
ahead.
for clarification purposes. So this is being tabled because there are still lingering questions that you would like for the applicant to respond to?
I think that's...
Is that correct?
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question would be, because essentially the motion was to approve 3 and not approve the 4th, or 2, yeah. So there was no mention of deferral in the motion. So if that's this point, the motion doesn't imply a deferral. I mean, we would have to have maybe a second motion for the deferral?
Right, correct. The motion, the motion on the table is to move forward with the proposed allocation, except for the Homestead metal.
Right, but with no mention of deferral.
With no
So
mention of
essentially
deferral.
it's just left behind unless it gets deferred or tabled for additional consideration later. I just want to clarify that.
And I think Rick had mentioned to you previously that those funds he can reserve, and
Right,
then
that's
you
what
all
I
can
thought.
direct that to come forward after questions have been presented, or for another allocation based upon your direction or based upon whatever conversations or further discussions that you can direct your staff to have to address the questions or concerns that the board has raised.
Ms. Fairclough, you had the floor, so go ahead and
Yes, I
finish.
just wanted to be clear on how I would vote, because I would just want to understand the rationale for leaving it behind is because you have more questions that you would like to answer. Okay, fair enough.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I'm just need some I thought when Rick said he can hold the funds that we were just deferring the application
Right.
until the applicant is able to come and answer the questions. So I would hope that the motion will include to defer Homestead metal recycling, and not deny it, but to defer it.
I'll amend my motion to say that.
Okay.
So the motion is to pass the 3 and defer Homestead metal recycling to be brought back to this board for questions to be answered. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Any final comments? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Fairclough,
Yes.
Board Member Wallman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Shelley.
Yes.
Chairman Porter.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Any reports from CRA? Any public comments at this time to the CRA board? Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll reconvene in about 5 minutes for the special call.